Uh-oh, that did not work. Let me try it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Typically we don't have that issue. I'm going to try this again now.
Okay.
Okay, and we have go. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Simply Monique radio show. I'm your host, Monique, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. We have the one and only Dr. Heather Robinson with us. She is the founder of Anointed to Write, where they equip individuals and organizations with the tools, strategies, and platforms to thrive. From expert publishing support to transformative DEI consulting, they drive inclusive growth, expand visibility, and foster innovation. More recently, she is the founder and publisher for A Anthology, ladies and gentlemen. This is her first anthology. We've been previously interviewing different guests and authors from this. Today we're going to dive into a great conversation with the visionary behind this latest anthology. You all may have seen Dr. Heather on local TV stations, radio platforms, different things of that nature there, discussing her journey as an author and being an entrepreneur. So welcome to the show, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad to catch up with you. I know you're a busy, busy woman, and things may have slowed down a little bit for you, but you've been a mover and a shaker.
Yeah, here I've been a mover and shaker. It doesn't feel like it.
I understand. So you're launching your first anthology, right? Educators Rise, Voices of Change Anthology, Volume 1.
Yes.
Woo. So, well, tell us a little about it, because you said that, woo, so let us know a little bit about how you got started on this journey.
Okay, so probably in June, God gave me the vision to do an anthology, but based in education, and I sat on it. I guess I'm still working on being obedient. So I sat on it. I think we all are. August, and then in August, 2 months later, my girlfriend had an event. So I was a keynote speaker and a host for the event. Then she had a conversation with me, and she said, when are you going to step out and do what you're supposed to do? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, it's time for you to do an anthology around education. You've been in education all these years. You've been an author all these years. It's time to step into what you know best.
Right.
And so we kind of brainstormed a little bit. That was in August. It wasn't until October that I actually went into one of the groups I was a member of. I just wanted to see. And then I think I wrote something like, looking to do an anthology. I don't remember how I wrote it, but I know it was very vague, and a lot of people just responded.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that was going to happen. It showed me two things. Number one, just because someone follows you on social media does not mean they're your audience.
That is very true. That is very, very true. That's a good point you make early into the show. That is very true.
Number two, just because you have family and friends does not mean they're your target audience.
Say it again.
So I did not have family and friends. I actually have people that I met online that actually entrusted me and joined the movement. And as a result, on this Friday, the 25th, the book is launching.
Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you catch a few things, God gave her instruction, and this was in June. She got instruction in June. August came, God came and sent somebody to confirm, hey, this is what you need to be doing, right? At October, she launched out in faith, like, hey, let me see what's going to happen with this process. If you guys noticed, she didn't immediately do something. She waited. She got confirmation, and then she began to act on it. And now here it is, this Friday, April 25th. The book is out there, guys. The anthology is out there for the world to get a copy of. How awesome is that?
I had no idea we were going to be in the climate that we're in.
I believe it.
I had absolutely no idea this was going to be the climate that we were in. So it's both scary but rewarding at the same time, because this is an on-time anthology, but it's also more than a book. It's a movement.
Yes, I can definitely understand that. You said that the book is a compilation of real-life experiences from educators, leaders, and consultants, right? And they're focusing on the DEI revolution in education and training. And so I think that is a great, what's what I want to say, avenue, if you will, when it comes to education system right now. We've seen a lot of changes that happened from COVID-19 and how our school system has definitely changed when it comes to the kids learning and their processes, the resources, the programs, things that are available for our school-age children, if you will. So as an author, what challenges have you faced when publishing this particular book?
Well, actually, I didn't face any challenges. I solidified my authors. They honored their commitment. They met all deadlines. I haven't had challenges. And for it to be the first anthology that I'm the visionary of, that's unheard of, because I've heard so many horror stories. I've heard horror stories of people not meeting deadlines. I've heard horror stories of people not paying completely in full. I didn't have any of that. So this is how I know this is a God thing. Because when God orchestrates something, it always works out.
Yes, that's a good point. Y'all catching these gems? You all know I'm a note taker. She done gave us a few nuggets here, okay? Just because someone follows you on social media doesn't mean they are your audience. Just because you're friends and family, doesn't mean they're your audience as well. And lastly, she just told us just now, if y'all caught that just now, she gave us another little tidbit there. Is how you know it's a God thing, right? When it's God orchestrated, it's smooth. That should be a key point right there. That is smooth. When God is in it, it is smooth, right? That's a whole nother message, okay? That's a whole nother message. Yes, ma'am. So a couple other questions I have for you, Dr. Robinson, is how do you feel this book and this particular genre will impact the education system?
I always take it back to myself, because education has always been a part of my life. I was a student, and then a teacher, right? So it's always been something that has been a part of my life. And as a child coming up, I had 5 IEPs. I always share this story because I feel like this part of it is important. It takes a village to raise a child was taken seriously when I was coming up.
Yes.
And so when we talk about the education portion of that includes administration, teachers, and parents all being on the same page to meet the need of that individual child, because that's the child's village in school. We've gotten so far away from that. It makes it difficult for teachers, because teachers feel like they don't get the support from administration. Administration feels like parents aren't as involved as they should be. Parents are stressed because the economy has gone up and they have to work multiple jobs or overtime, so they can't show up the way maybe they want to, and some of them don't know how.
That's good.
We expect people to know what they don't know. And so if we're not doing our due diligence to come together as a community, come together as that child's village, and go back to the basics, the children are going to fall between the cracks. And when children fall between the cracks, they grow up. And when they grow up and might not always stay on track. And that's not what we want. We want our children to stay on track. DEI is not just a black issue, which is the misconception, which is why there's things that are rolled out right now where DEI is kind of being pushed to the side, because people don't really understand. If if I'm a man and DEI impacts my wife, it's going to impact me. because we're one.
Right.
If it impacts
Right.
my mother, if it impacts my father, if it impacts my sibling, if it impacts one of my friends, if it impacts a colleague that I've worked with for the last 30 years, DEI really, honestly, if you really get to the core of it, it's for everybody. We're seen as the minority, but actually who's considered the minority, all of us, not just black people, we're actually the majority. And that's why I feel like we're in such a weird time with DEI. It's like you can't – it's almost like I was listening to Cheryl Underwood, and she said, they're making other issues to push our issues away, right? And so this is not to be controversial, but she did bring up a specific group of people that are fighting for their rights, and that is starting to overshadow what we have going on. And she was like, it shouldn't be that way, and there's enough room for everybody to fight for whatever their rights are as it pertains to them. There's you have religion where they're fighting against religion. They're fighting against the LGBTQ community. They're fighting against the black community. They're fighting against who's considered an immigrant. And it just becomes a lot. And if we get back to that whole community, you don't have to agree with someone's lifestyle to treat them as a human being.
You can still be kind. Yeah, you can still be kind to people. Yeah, you can still be kind and show the love of Christ to people. You may not agree with their lifestyle or condone it. You don't agree with the drug dealer. You don't agree with the gangbanger. You don't agree with the homosexual or lesbian, but you can still show the love of Christ to them. Don't mean you have to condone it. Yeah. Getting back to the basics like you were speaking on. Yes.
And to me, that's the whole cusp of DEI.
Got it. Getting back to the basics.
When you break down DEI, I break it down like this: diversity provides representation.
Okay.
Right. And so, what does representation look like for you? We got to sit back and think about that, because what it looks like to me might be different than what it looks like to you.
Right. It does look different.
Equity is, and I always teach, I always do like a little spill on the difference between equity and equality. Equality means we get the same treatment. So when we go in for a job, you might have more experience than I do. Most jobs you have to go through training whether you have experience or not. To put us both in the same training class, that's equality, but that's not meeting my needs, because I might need a little bit more. Equity means I'm going to meet you where you are so that you can rise to the occasion to do whatever the task is at hand.
Gotcha.
And then when we look at inclusion, everybody wants to feel like they belong. That sense of belongingness is really important, especially to children. They need to feel like they belong somewhere, whether it's a classroom, whether it's in a friend group, whatever it is, they need to feel like they belong. So when you're looking at the cusp of DEI, we're looking at representation, we're looking at the individual person's needs, and we're looking at a sense of belongingness. How do we get children to feel that way in the schools, and then that spill over to their life outside of school?
That's a good question.
That's what we're looking at with DEI.
That's a good question. But would it not start like, okay, you said we get it that. Well, I can say this. When I was in grammar school, I had certain teachers that actually took time out. This is when they said the village and everything in the schools, I think it was on the same page, and parenting and whatnot. I had specific teachers, and I remember in grammar school, who actually saw me and took me under their wing, if you will, different teachers throughout that phase of my life. And so they actually, I had one teacher, and I'll never forget her. And I even tried to find her again. I think she has dementia or something now. I'm not sure because I can't communicate with her. But nevertheless, I will never forget this particular teacher because she would send stuff to my home. She would send stuff like clothes or whatever, because she had a daughter. She would send stuff to our home and everything like that. She actually cared. And I think that generation of teachers and principals and administrators, they're gone. That generation and even with the neighborhoods where your kids felt safe and certain things happened. So at home and in the atmosphere in the school where the teachers communicated, it wasn't a competition between the teachers and the students. And I feel like competition crept in there between each teacher. Like you knew certain teachers and they were free, they were buddies, yes, but they paid attention to the students, I believe, and the students had an environment that was safe for them to go to. I remember having a safe environment in my classrooms.
Yes.
Even in the cafeteria, in the classroom, having that safe environment there, so that it was cool for me to go to the classroom. I didn't have an issue. I could talk to my teachers about certain things. If there was an issue going at home or whatever, I could talk to my teachers because I was safe to do so. Right. And nowadays you have issues where I saw where a teacher, he got fired because he's a male teacher, but he got fired. I don't know if you saw it, where it was about his hair. They was taking down his hair, and he got fired about that. And then all these other videos came up, and they said, hey, well, what about this? It was a female teacher who had the girls doing her hair, and different teachers, and they had a teacher who was cutting their hair, but they painted different scenarios. So I wonder what happened. Some people said, well, he was too close to them, and I was just wondering. But what I learned was that those students, he got fired, but the students, their grades were skyrocketing, right? They was passing all their classes. They were doing well. So I'm like, are we picking and choosing? You know what I'm saying? When we fire a teacher, because the other teachers, the female teacher, she didn't get fired for the girls doing her hair, right?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, she
didn't get fired. The man who was cutting the dude's hair, he didn't get fired either. So okay, help me understand something, okay? If the student was cutting the teacher's hair and he didn't get fired, is it because of the male and female interaction? Was that the issue? Because all those kids were doing something. I'm just wondering, if you're going to fire one, okay, go ahead, chop everybody down. If you're going to chop one, just go ahead and chop everyone else. That I'm just wondering, because I'm not in the education system and I've worked in that part there, but the kids was bigger than me. So they was like, who's the teacher? But so it's like you spoke about equality and equity, right? Inclusiveness. So if you want to fire that young man who's making a difference in those students' lives, those girls' lives, and granted, you guys or girls, saying you're going to like your teacher, you're going to have a crush on this person, substitute or whatnot, because we have hormones, that testosterone in the guys and stuff like that. It happens. But it did not impact his ability to do his job, right? I'm just saying,
This conversation, I used to work with a girl, and I told her, I said, I don't put children on my lap. And this
that's not appropriate. Right, that's not appropriate.
And this is what I explained to her. I said, the reason I don't is because it's accepted when a female teacher puts a child on their lap. But it's not accepted when a male teacher does it. So I didn't make the executive decision for myself.
Right.
That was good for the goose is good for the gander. I feel like whatever the male teacher can't do, the female teacher can't do.
Yeah. That way it's even across the board, I feel. Yes, across the board. It should be even across the board. Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
So when we talk about sexism, we always talk about sexism on the male perspective, but that's sexism too, where you allow a female teacher to get away with something like that.
Or she's a woman. But what about the teacher that was sleeping? What about the teacher that slept with the student? Remember that lady? The white lady. I'm just saying, I know that's kind of far out there, but I was just saying, I could see if it was something like that. But I do agree with you in terms of it being an even and a level playing field across the board. These same rules should apply, and it should not be gender specific where a man can do this and a woman can do that, because that way it won't be any confusion. I feel like that because I just kind of felt bad for the young man. I did. I felt bad for him, and so but never heard anything else about it. I felt bad for the kids too, yes, because he was a role model to them and a positive influence in their lives, and they were doing good. So are they doing bad now is my question. Did their grades drop, you know? What happened to them mentally? That part there. Because he could have been a father figure to them girls or an uncle or a big brother figure. And even to the other young men in the classroom.
Yeah,
so we would never know that, right? Huh?
It's just so loaded.
Yes, it is. But we can't stay, and dwell on that all day. Now back to this anthology, right? You have all these different personalities coming together to create a book, right? That'll be launched here in a few days. And so, how was that doing something like that? It's your first anthology. You have different personalities coming together, and you didn't have any issues with that. So, where do you think? Where would you like to see this anthology go?
So this is actually going to be there's going to be a volume 2 and a volume 3 for this anthology.
Okay.
And I'm looking at all 3 anthologies being out by December.
Oh, wow.
So
then.
I'm looking at maybe August, September for volume 2, and then December for volume 3.
Okay. So you've already got.
Another thing I'm looking at doing is doing an annual conference every June.
Okay.
And what that will do is allow for everybody that was in all 3 anthologies to come out and be a part of a roundtable discussion, have a couple of keynote speakers, and do some fun things. This particular conference that I'm doing on the 28th, this is my first conference that I'm spearheading. And there's a couple of things. You have your speakers, you have a meal, but there's also, you know how you have like intermission?
Yes.
Well, we're going to actually do something called Slay the Runway.
Okay,
so
then.
You're going to come dressed to impress, but it's a twist. You're dressed to impress, but it has to represent who you are, whatever that looks like for you. And then you'll have the opportunity to walk the actual runway and slay in what represents you.
Okay.
And there will be a prize. There's going to be an award for the best male and the best female, and it's going to be by vote.
Okay.
So that's kind of like an impromptu type of situation, but I thought that was
different,
nice.
Though. That's
very different.
Yes, it's very different. Yes.
Yeah, another thing I did that was different is that my co-authors had the opportunity to write 2 chapters apiece instead of 1.
That is different. Yes.
That's also different.
Yes, it is. So, typically, you only do 1 chapter. So, yes.
So, just trying to do things a little bit different. I am thinking about possibly doing an educator's magazine once a year to launch in June of every year when we do our conference. The conference is also going to be to award educators.
Yes.
Education advocates, those types of awards. Just trying to, keep it going. And another big thing that I'm doing, I'm actually turning this anthology into a trilogy of anthologies.
Okay, that is different. You have your hands full considering everything. I know that you've experienced outside of being an author. So kudos to you. I've been following your journey, and everything as far as with your health and whatnot. And I commend you for being such a fighter and such a warrior and having your faith in God to pursue and push everything forward and not let things stop you.
Yeah, I have a business mind that business has to go on regardless. And everybody doesn't feel that way. Some people feel like when they have an emergency that they have to push things back, and that's fine. But for me, if it was just me by myself, then I would have pushed the book back. But I have authors that paid and actually entrusted me with their work. And by any means necessary, this book is coming out on Friday.
Right, Malcolm X. just to kind of wrap up some things that you shared with us, Dr. Robinson, I want to recap some of the gems we talked about. Just because someone follow you on social media doesn't mean they're your target audience. Just because someone is your friends or your family doesn't mean they are your target audience, because sometimes we think that, but really and truly our books are not for our family and friends, and I have personally learned that as well. People say, I'm not buying your book, Monique, it's just, it don't appeal to me. I'm like, okay, all right, just because I don't want to say the same thing on just because you know that person, and you can't have that false expectation for your friends to buy your book either. But when it's God ordained, it will be smooth. You didn't have any hiccups in the process of releasing this anthology, which is awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Teachers and parents should be on the same page. I never forget that, man. It was just like, and I couldn't even skip school. I always talk about this story because I remember when I was younger, and we could not skip school. My neighbor saw us at home, and he thought we were skipping school. We couldn't even skip school. We really couldn't because our mom used to show up to the
was telling on you.
Yes.
The guy down in the corner store was telling on you.
Yes.
It seemed like everybody knew my dad.
Right. Listen, there was no getting away with it. Because back then, they had the house phones and the rotary dial. You dial and what, what I'm saying? Call, wait, and what? Nobody no call.
Call the house when you didn't go to school. It was an automated system that called the house. And I mean,
yeah. Listen, it was no getting away.
Running into the phone.
Right.
So nobody else would know.
You thought so. Yeah, man. But we have to get back to the basics. Getting back to the basics, And that's in school, inside the school, always making a healthy and a safe environment at school, in the classrooms as well, getting back to the basics, making a safe environment for the kids at home. And so that means creating a learning environment at home, not having the tablets and the TV, the phones in front of the kids so much. I know sometimes you want to give your child that tablet, that TV, that remote, whatever it is the case, to keep their attention span. However, that's actually draining their knowledge and their attention span. It decreases that part there, so they're not able to focus and concentrate. So when in the classroom, they can't concentrate because their mind, has drained so much energy on this video game or this television show or the latest trend on TikTok or Threads and whatnot like that. But anyhow, we can keep going into that. But are there any last-minute remarks you would like to share with the audience today?
I just share the same thing that I shared from the beginning. We need to get back to basics. Parents, teachers, and administrators need to get on one accord and begin to work together because it's about the children at the end of the day, not about egos. And if we can do that, then we will see this generation soar. And if you'd like to order the book or attend the conference, is my website, anointedthe2right.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We thank Dr. Robinson for being a guest on the Simply Monique radio show. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay up, be blessed, and peace.